everyone, and welcome to Disney Princess Deathmatch. I am Liz Stevens.
And I am Sarah Cade. And this week on Disney Princess Deathmatch, we are doing Pocahontas.
We are, which is, I'm a little bit surprised by how this whole thing is going to roll out.
I really am too.
We've kind of dismissed Pocahontas. She
we
was
absolutely
just one
have.
of those other princesses that we are going to have to watch a movie about.
Right. I don't think that we even considered her like at all.
I really
for
don't think
kind
that
of
she was
anything
in consideration.
Right. And for a while, we weren't even going to do her because she's not technically a princess. She's the chieftain's daughter.
Right,
However,
that's true.
She is included in the official Disney Princess list, which we put on Twitter months ago. And presumably we put it back on Twitter when we started releasing these episodes. We're going to assume that we did do that. And I mean, this movie is problematic and there are some issues, but like the character of Pocahontas is pretty great.
She was really amazing. I enjoyed watching her every step of the way.
Yeah.
The voice acting I thought was beautiful too.
The animation in this film is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And the voice acting is really great, generally.
And what's so weird is that I remember as a kid not liking the animation at all, and particularly
Really?
her. There was something about, like, I remember thinking that she was really flat-faced.
Oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense because she does not look like any other Disney princess.
No, but at the same time, like, I see the artistic choices now as an adult so much. And I see where there's that tribute to Native American art.
Right,
Which I didn't,
yeah.
of course, recognize as a kid. I
course,
just knew
yeah.
that something was different and that it wasn't working for me.
Right.
And of course, she came on the heels of Belle. And Belle was very... well, I was going to say true to life, but that's not quite right because she did have those huge eyes that you and I were talking about. But she just seemed more recognizable as that classic Disney princess animation, I suppose.
I totally see what you're saying.
And Pocahontas
Yeah.
was really doing something different.
Very,
But
very different.
now that I see her, I mean, she seems very real. She seems almost like watching an actress, more so than the other princesses that I remember watching.
Yes, I think that you're absolutely right. It's very similar to did you ever see Disney's Hercules?
Yeah, and I
The
thought the same
animation
thing.
for that
Yeah.
movie was also, I mean, they do not look nearly as realistic as the characters in this film look, but the animation style was so different. It was very stylistic. I remember every time I would see Hercules on screen, I would think, why does he have cinnamon rolls for ears? I don't understand.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was
and
a
like
very,
his kneecaps for cinnamon rolls
yeah,
too, right?
yeah. So it's a
was
very
all-
different, and they're and Megara is extremely like angular and all this kind of stuff. So they're very stylistic choices. But I honestly don't think that I've watched this movie since like 1995, which is when it came out.
Well, and I even had it in my head that it came out much later because I was really underwhelmed by it as a kid. And I think I just didn't understand it. And it wasn't, it doesn't feel like a Disney princess movie.
It really doesn't.
Which it isn't.
No,
I suppose.
it is not.
They were doing something different. And so they went out on a limb with that. I missed it completely as a kid. And now as an adult, there are still some... Like, it's not a perfect movie. We were
course,
saying
right.
It's not super great, but it has some really beautiful things in there that just completely went over my head when I was a kid.
It really does. I don't know necessarily if this movie was aimed for, because like generally our Disney princess films have been aimed toward like the 8 to 10 crowd, right? Like the 8-year-olds to 10-year-olds around thereabouts. I don't really, I mean, like your daughter really enjoyed this movie and your daughter is 10 turning, well, she'll be 11.
She's practically 11.
Yeah, she'll be 11 by the time this podcast is out.
And pretty bright. I feel like we can't just.
That's true.
hold
Yeah, no,
Lily
we
up
can't
as-
hold Lily up to the standards of 10-year-olds. Do I know other 10-year-olds? Probably not. Anyway, but generally, I would assume that like 8-year-olds maybe would not enjoy this movie. And in fact, I can intuit that because I was 7 when this movie came out, and it did nothing for me.
Wow, nothing at all. That's interesting.
I mean, I enjoyed Pocahontas' songs, but I think that was basically it. And everybody,
like
I'm
the
sorry
songs.
if I sound froggy. I have been having allergies terrible this week, so I'm going to do my best to not sound completely horrible, but maybe I'll just be like Phoebe from Friends, and this is my sexy phlegm voice. So here we go.
I like it.
Thanks. So Pocahontas came out in 1995, and the character of Pocahontas is 18 years old, and we do not start with our Disney princess at all, or even we don't start with a storybook. We do start with a painting, which is pretty interesting.
That's right. Or like a print. I think it was like a...
It's like a wood engraving or something.
Yeah, or
whatever they did in
something.
1508.
Yeah, 1607. Yes,
That
1607
also,
is what
yep.
it says. Yeah.
I could have sworn you said 1508 earlier.
Yeah. Oh, nope. Anyway, but I didn't remember it starting in London at all. But we start out with the ship, which is awesome. I'm really into ships right now.
You are?
Yeah. As we record this, I'm watching a lot of Black Sails. So I enjoyed seeing all the masts and the sails and just the architecture of ships in general. I think is really satisfying for me personally.
Right.
So that was a fun opening. But then we get a lot of John Smith being completely crazy.
He
Like this crazy super Last Action Hero.
I really have no idea what they were trying to do, but they really do seem to... They're just like, look at this brave, super brave, like he's really super duper brave, you guys, guy.
Right.
And like this adventurer and all that. He's like
super
swinging
heroic
from ropes and all this stuff. It was really odd. It was very, very strange.
It was a strange opening. It was a very masculine opening.
Yes.
Which was interesting. So also not necessarily what we're used to.
Right. And the song is not that great.
No.
This opening song.
No, it reminded me a little bit of the opening from Sleeping Beauty, although I couldn't quite pinpoint why.
Because it was a little boring?
Yeah, I think it was a little boring. It was a little repetitive. There were the crowds and the banners, and the color scheme was really specific.
What caught me about the color scheme is that and then this first thing, I got worried. I was like, oh man, we're just gonna have to deal with like this really weird color scheme throughout the entire film. But like the boats had so much like purple painted all over them. Lots of purples, lots of blues and reds and teals, and it was just really strange. And that like just struck me. I was like, okay, well, we're in Grey London, and then here's this like giant purple ship, and I don't like the way that looks. It seems like discordant to me. And then we see everybody that's on just outside of the ship. We see all the people like kissing their families and all this stuff. We see Thomas, played by a very young Christian Bale.
Sounding just like Jack in Newsies.
Yeah. Do you know when Newsies came out?
94.
Okay, well then 2 years later he did Pocahontas. So he was really young.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. And so we see all these people like kissing their families and all this, and they get on the ship, and then in comes John. Is it Ratcliffe or Ratliff?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to call him Rat again because that's what I keep saying in my brain.
I think it was Ratcliffe. But you know what? I'm not even positive.
I'm not even sure because he wasn't
the bad guy.
The bad guy who was not that great of a bad guy.
No,
and
the voice work was really great.
The voice work was very good. The characterization, I have never seen a more two-dimensional character than... Is it true. John Ratliff or James Ratliff? I don't know. I legitimately don't know. Then the bad guy.
So the same voice actor does the voice of Ratcliffe and of his little assistant Wiggins.
Oh, I thought his name was William. Wiggins is a way better name for that character.
And he was hysterical.
He was
so
really funny. I
would never have guessed that was the same actor who was David Ogden Stiers, who's very good.
Good job, David Ogden Stiers. Yes, yeah. The voice work was really, really impeccable. But I mean, Ratcliffe's character wants gold. And I just told you everything about him.
That is all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. That's it. And don't worry about like forgetting about his character motivation because he will remind you literally every time that he's on screen.
Every time he's on screen.
Yeah. So that was really obnoxious and terrible. So we get away from and then we have like the giant like the ship is out at sea and there's a storm, and again John Smith is like Indiana Jones meets Rambo.
Just insane.
It's just crazy.
He goes
like
sliding
all over
down
the place
this rope, and it would have torn the flesh from his hand.
Yeah.
And
no more palms.
It's it's Disney magic, and I understand this.
Sure,
but he was just so impossibly manly.
It was
kind of missing for me.
It was like the movie
was
like just being. It was really crazy. It was the craziest thing. No subtlety whatsoever. It's just like, this is our hero. This is our guy, John Smith, the only blonde dude on the entire ship,
the whitest white guy,
the whitest white guy on this ship. John Smith. He's the best. He's the best. And it was ridiculous. It was crazy.
A little crazy. Yeah.
And so I, going into this film, did not have high hopes. And as that scene was going on, I was like, this is going to be such a drudgery. Yeah. This will be terrible. So then we finally get away from all of the ridiculous, like, just hardcoreness of John Smith. And we finally get to see the Powhatan tribe, Pocahontas' tribe.
Yes.
And the colors shift and are suddenly like beautiful and gorgeous and wonderful, and the music is beautiful and brilliant and wonderful, and we see this tribe, they're doing their everyday things, and like they're a family, they're all working together.
Well, first the men are all coming home from war, remember?
That's right. Yes. And so we see Pocahontas and her best friend Nakoma, which I always liked that because the little town that I grew up in was Nakoma Park whenever I was very little, and then we moved to Choctaw. We live in Oklahoma, so like all of our towns are named after various Indian tribes.
Yes.
And so the men are coming home from war, and it's a big deal. And then we get to see Pocahontas finally, and she is just, you use the word regal.
Yes. And it's really almost the only word for her.
It's really
She's absolutely regal.
She looks like a cartoon Gal Gadot. And if anybody has been paying attention to my Twitter feed, you know how wicked into Gal Gadot I am at this moment, and like Wonder Woman and all of that jazz. Like, she is so gorgeous.
Really,
Liz, you said
stunning.
earlier that you thought that she was the most beautiful Disney princess, and initially I was like, that's not true, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think it might be true.
It was excellent animation work.
Yes.
It really was. I do like that she didn't have the super crazy Disney princess eyes that
because you take any other Disney princess and her eyeballs are going to be bigger than her wrists.
It's just crazy.
Like, there was a lot of criticism for Frozen and Tangled specifically.
For that.
Because you can take an image of, like, Rapunzel or Anna or Elsa and literally, like, Photoshop out their eye and it will be bigger than their wrists.
Wow.
But Pocahontas is not like that. Pocahontas looks like an actual human being.
She looks like a real person.
Yeah.
It really is like watching an amazing actress. Yeah, it's really great. And I love the work that they did with her hair also. Her hair always had all of this movement.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. It was wonderful. It reminded me a lot of Ariel when she was under the water.
Yeah.
And all of the animation and, like, basically you got this whole other character that you're having to animate is, like, the hair, right?
Yeah, that's
it's like
amazing.
This, and so it was... She's just great. She's so good. And I was not expecting this at all and was literally awed by her on screen and the way that she moves, the way that she spoke,
the way she moves is amazing.
Way that she, I mean, just... Guys, Pocahontas is, like, super duper cool, and none of us had any idea. Well, some people did. Our friend Tammy is currently harassing me on Twitter because apparently I didn't know. And Tammy, I'm so sorry that I didn't know, but I know now. All right, so
that's funny.
So yeah.
Well, and we get her "I Want" song right away.
Yeah,
because she's immediately betrothed to Kocoum, who is very stern and very serious.
He looks
but
so
will
serious.
Build a sturdy house.
Yeah.
So says Dad. And she has that scene that all of our Disney princesses have where she, butts heads with her dad, but she does it very respectfully.
Yeah. It's like they have an actual relationship. It's like this man has actually spent time with his daughter and knows how to communicate with her.
And both of them together. Like, I think that scene was really well done. And I really liked that. I mean, I wonder if some of that is cultural too, because I know that the Native American culture, there's a lot of respect for elders. And not only is he an elder, but also the chief.
Yes.
So but then again, I think that probably then would have been true in Aladdin, and it wasn't at all.
No, not at all.
And I think that culturally, at least that idea of his being sultan, and then of course the masculine feminine over there is very different, and certainly was at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was a lovely little scene to watch, and especially because you saw that before she really argued her point. She thought about her point and she tried to realize what it was she was feeling.
Right.
Because she understood that it was more than just, I don't like that guy too much,
And she actually listened to what her father had to say. Like, Powhatan is talking to her about, like, Kocoum can provide for you. He can build you a house with sturdy walls. He's a great warrior.
And she quotes that
very
in her
well
song,
renowned.
which is great.
Absolutely. And so she doesn't just, it's not an immediate, like, I'm not going to do this. You can't tell me what to do. I'm not a child anymore.
Yeah.
But she actually listens to what he has to say. And I mean, you're exactly, I mean, like, it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. You could tell, like, there have been times when I've seen other Disney films and seen parents interacting with their children. I'm like, does he even, I mean, like, and I'm thinking of, like, Triton specifically in Little Mermaid, where sometimes it's kind of hard to determine, does he actually love his daughter? And he does. I mean, you're able to see that. But, like, whenever they're interacting.
Do they know each other?
Do they know each other? Are they able to, are they friends? Like, do they like each other?
Yeah.
And I do think that Powhatan and Pocahontas do have a very, a good relationship, like the kind of relationship I would want my daughter to have with her father.
Yeah.
At one point, in some far distant future. So we go from that to, she does her I Want song just around the river bend. So the music is done by Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz. And Alan Menken, up to this point, has worked on Aladdin, has worked on Little Mermaid. He will do work on Rapunzel. And Stephen Schwartz did Wicked, which came out in 2003, I think. And so he worked on the lyrics for that. And also, I want to say he did some stuff for Enchanted as well. And I think Alan Menken did also.
Yes, Alan Menken definitely did stuff for Enchanted.
Yeah, and I think that Stephen Schwartz may have done some of the lyrics. I think I remember that because when the movie came out and I enjoyed the music so much, I was really into Wicked at the time. And I was like, oh, well, of course I like this. Stephen Schwartz did it. So we had just a heck of a musical team on this movie. And I mean, they nailed it with basically every song.
Yeah.
Basically. Almost every song. But Pocahontas has two just absolutely amazing songs. And so we get Just Around the River Bend, which is great and wonderful.
It's a beautiful sequence.
It's so pretty. All of the stuff with Pocahontas in this movie is so pretty.
Well, I think that they're doing something very specific with Pocahontas. It bothered me a lot as a little girl because I remember when this movie came out, being very confused by why she had like this stream of neon fuchsia and teal leaves that just followed her around everywhere she went and made shapes in the air. It really bothered me because I didn't understand it.
It's a Disney magic, Liz.
Right. Well, and it's more than Disney magic too. I think now watching it as an adult, like I'm seeing between the line that Powhatan has about whenever I feel the wind move or the wind blow, I sense the presence of your mother.
Yeah.
So there's this tie-in with all of that. And when she is first talking to Grandmother Willow and it's saying, listen with your heart, you get more of the leaves and the wind and that music.
Right.
And so it's a tie-in with her spirituality and with her sense of not only herself and her spirit, but also like the spirit of her mother and like her path and finding her way. Like it's a very special thing that they're trying to do stylistically.
Yes.
And of course, because I was 9, I missed it.
Right.
But now as an adult, I get it and I can appreciate it, even if I see why it threw me out as a kid.
Right. It's really lovely. And I really greatly enjoyed it. And I think you were just absolutely spot on. I think you're exactly 1,000% right. So then she goes to Grandmother Willow. We are introduced. So when we're introduced to Pocahontas, we didn't get quite to this, but we're introduced to Pocahontas. She's standing on a cliff above a waterfall, above this this really placid lake.
Yes.
And the wind comes up, and you get like your neon colored leaves and all this stuff. And her friend Nakoma is down in the lake saying, "Your father wants you. The men are back for more."
Right.
And so Pocahontas starts to walk off, is walking into the forest, and then turns around, runs, and just like swan dives.
Yeah.
Like this girl knows no fear. Majestically, beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful. I mean, like, basically doesn't spill a drop, jump into that lake, like, not a single splash, whatever.
And John had just done that on the ship. He had jumped off the ship after Thomas, when Thomas went overboard. So we saw that echo of the two of them being these free spirits.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it was just a wonderful secret. And that was when I wrote down, all I wrote down in my notes was, I like Pocahontas. Like, at that moment, I was so surprised. You have endeared yourself to me. I enjoy your character. Talking just more about the beautiful animation. So she goes to Grandmother Willow. She talks to Grandmother Willow about her dream that she's been having, the spinning arrow, and she's not sure what she doesn't want to marry Kocoum. She's not sure what to do.
Right.
And then she discovers,
I did like this too, that she asked questions.
Yeah.
Like a lot of our princesses have just decided, well, I don't want this, so I'm going to go and plow forward knowing nothing and being naive.
You know what? That's really good.
She actually sought wisdom and counsel and guidance, which was also, I think, her father says later that she's wise beyond her years.
Yes.
And I really do think that's true.
Yeah, that is a really great point, Liz. I hadn't really thought about that, but you're exactly right. I don't know if we have had any other Disney princesses at this point asking for any. Like Ariel went to the Sea Witch, but I feel like that's not same.
Not same. And
not
she
at all.
didn't actually seek her out, even, did she? Wasn't she?
No,
kind of like
you're
lured?
right. No, you're right. Flotsam and Jetsam came and found her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Cinderella talked to Fairy Godmother, but Fairy
Godmother just showed up,
appeared beneath her sobbing body.
Yes.
So yes, again, a little bit different.
Right. So she sees the ship as it is pulling in, and she starts kind of like stalking after Mel Gibson, or not Mel Gibson. Well, I mean, Mel Gibson plays John
Mel
Smith.
Gibson. What did you think of Mel Gibson's voice work?
It was. The man can't do a British accent, I guess?
It was really, okay, that part was weird, right? And it's interesting because now that I think about it, in all these movies he's done, he had a Scottish accent in Braveheart, right? He would have had to.
I think so. Like, he was mega Scottish in Braveheart.
That, right? Yeah, he was, yeah.
I think I did like one time. Like, it wasn't my bag. I was a child. Like, it's not...
We'll have to try that again as adults.
Yeah, I guess so. We might like it a lot more.
We might really like it, actually, come to think of it. It might be right up our alley.
We're super into Scottish things.
Yes. So, well, we'll see. We'll look into that in the future. But you're right. You said a couple times, is he attempting to do a British accent? And I was like, no, he's just doing American. And then I was like, well, maybe he's doing that kind of there's a style that you do in theater work that's an American accent, but it's just got a little bit of
like very crisp,
and some British style to it. You do it a lot when you're doing classic theater.
Okay,
so at first I thought it was that he was trying to do, but I really think you're right. He just had like the littlest bit of British affectation instead of actually going full on British accent. And I don't know if that was. I very much doubt it was his shortcoming, because surely any kind of good vocal coach could have helped him to do just that littlest bit. Or they would have dropped it altogether. So I almost want to just blame that.
You know what? I think I know what it was.
What do you think?
I think that maybe it was a directorial choice because, again, John Smith is the hero, you guys. All these British dudes are bad guys. John Smith is the hero. So he's got to be more American than British.
I don't know, because we had Thomas had that accent that was very different too, and then we had Billy Connolly. Remember, Billy Connolly was one of the guys.
But I mean, like they, and not to say that like all of the, mostly it was Ratcliffe who was a bad guy, right?
Yes,
but like just wanting to distinguish him again, only blonde guy on the ship, only one with blue eyes. Only one with a slightly American accent.
Yeah. And also he belonged a little bit in both worlds, and he didn't belong in either world.
That's nice.
So I wonder if that wasn't part of it too.
Maybe so. Anyway, it was super distracting.
Yeah.
Whatever the decisions were, a little bit distracting. So we get to just one of the most beautiful scenes ever, where they're in the mist is going on. Your husband Joshua had mentioned that they must have just learned how to like do that mist effect, because it got used a lot.
It was all over the place, but it was beautiful.
It was perfect.
I can't believe that I didn't know how gorgeous this movie was.
I know. I don't know, Liz.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How did we miss this?
I think honestly that the ending of this movie has a lot to do with it, and we'll get there in a few minutes. But I think that because this movie is very much not a traditional Disney princess film.
Yeah.
And I think that just again, I don't think that it was aimed necessarily for 8 to 10-year-olds.
Well, and that maybe is just I don't want to say a weakness, but that's maybe just a fault of this particular medium. Like when you're doing animation, you know that children are going to come to see it, so it's hard to tell an adult story.
Yeah,
a part of me wishes that we could have forgone all of the silliness and just told an adult love story. Like, can you imagine? I mean, this could have been like Last of the Mohicans, like this that kind of gorgeous beauty for adults.
If we had cut everything with Ratcliffe, this movie would have been perfect.
Yeah, pretty great.
Like super, super good, right?
You're probably right.
But so we get this beautifully, beautifully animated scene where Pocahontas is like stalking after John Smith, like trying to learn more about him, and the mist is going there in front of these waterfalls. He jumps out of the waterfall and sees that it's a woman. It's not a warrior.
He's got the rifle pointed at her.
Absolutely. And then she stands up. She's already standing. He starts to stand up, and like the mist starts to clear, and she looks like a freaking goddess.
She's amazing. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Like just standing there, so proud. If she is scared, I mean, she doesn't know what a rifle is.
That's true.
So like again, this girl just leapt off of a 100-foot cliff, no fear, like so courageous and so brave, and it is just absolutely wonderfully done. And then we finally get a Disney princess who is afraid of strange men, which is great and excellent. And so he tries to talk to her, and she runs off and gets to her canoe. And then I think that one of the reasons that we wanted to do this podcast was maybe to kind of explore some of the problems that there are with feminism in these early Disney princess films, and to see like how we've gotten better, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, we also have a serious problem with like masculinity in these films.
You're absolutely right. That's... until you said it, I don't think that I had realized that that's what it was. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, that we're not representing masculinity well either.
No, we are not. And what we're talking about is Pocahontas tries to get away from John Smith, and she's in her canoe, and she's got her paddle, and she's ready to go. And he tells her, "No, wait," and like puts his hand out. And that's not necessarily what we're talking about. But the scene right after,
all the men though have been very grabby. All of them have held on to the princesses when they're trying to get away.
Yes.
And have used their strength and their size against them.
Yes. And the only one who did not was Prince Eric. And that's because Ariel was absolutely not trying to get away. But
interesting.
Yes. Because she was seeking him out very, very specifically. But we're talking about Snow White.
And you know what? Eric is like the favorite of all the little girls, too. That's very interesting.
Snow White's Prince Ferdinand, I think that we said he is canonically.
Was he?
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, nobody remembers it. People call him Prince Charming, but it's not Prince Charming. Prince Charming is Cinderella.
I know.
Ferdinand was super grabby, like just hopped a wall, started singing at this little Dutch girl and grabbing her hand.
Yeah.
Prince Charming wasn't that bad, I don't think, actually.
No, he was. Remember, she
that's
kept
right.
On, he would just grab the hand and grab the hand, and
so he was really bad.
Away.
Prince Philip was absolutely terrible, like would not let, and then Aurora, like a moron, was just like, I live over here, you can meet me there tonight. We don't have to go back there. There's a reason why she's still lowest score on the list right now.
Right.
Aladdin was a liar and a manipulator, and not necessarily super grabby, but still just not great. And so Pocahontas is trying to run off again, and John Smith straight up is like grabbing her by the arms and pulling her toward him and saying, no, no, no. And she's saying no, and he will not listen to her. And you guys, this is a serious problem, that I think we will deal with more in Entangled and in Frozen. but remind me when we get there and we'll take a look. But I think that the guys get a little better at that point. But you're right. I hadn't really realized, like, just this isn't okay. This is a problem. This is a problem to be representing this man who we have been spent the entire first 5 minutes of the film saying what a hero he was and how great he was and how wonderful. And now when a girl is telling him no, he's not taking no for an answer.
Well, and it's interesting too, because that's coupled also with the conversation that they're having where he is being very offensive to her.
So offensive.
But not knowing. He doesn't realize the blunder that he's making, and he doesn't realize how to fix it even.
Yes.
So those two things are kind of going hand in hand. But it's like that the writers are aware of the one but not the other. It's very strange.
Yeah, it really is, because obviously he's, saying things like, oh, well, we're here to civilize your people and you're uncivilized and you're all savages.
We've
and I
trained
counted
many savages.
Yes, and the white men in this movie say savages 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 times in this movie. They use the term savages. I didn't count it whenever the Powhatan tribe was saying it because, frankly, they were not wrong.
Well, I mean, I think that the whole idea of the xenophobia on both sides is a big part of the storytelling.
Right,
here.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So that was purposeful, at least. It's not like it was an accidental.
Right. I mean, I kept making, jokes about casual racism throughout this movie, but obviously, like, that's what was happening at that time.
Right. Yeah.
However, still a problem that John Smith is not taking no for an answer.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, so that was really
Although
interesting.
She is, again, awesome about it. She
really is.
She's having none of it. Yeah. Whereas a lot of them have been like, well, you're so dreamy. I guess it's okay.
Yeah. And kind of falling immediately into their arms. But Pocahontas does not. I mean, she does fall for him, but it takes a little bit of time. They actually are having some conversations that seem to last long enough for their respective peoples to be like, hey, where are you at?
Yeah.
So a few hours at least, which is a lot better than a lot of other princesses have been doing so far.
So what did you think of her learning English by listening with her heart?
Disney magic.
It bothers me. I know it's Disney magic, but it's just so
Here's the
silly.
thing. I think that it wouldn't bother us as much if we had not seen that scene done so much better in Tarzan.
Yeah,
because we watched Tarzan recently.
You're right.
We had to do that for an OMO
I think you're
episode.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
And it was, and of course, it took more time.
Right.
So, which they didn't have to give us, I suppose, in this one.
Yes.
But yeah, that was done really well, where they're really getting to know each other and learning how to communicate with one another.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're right.
But we had some other stuff going on in this movie. We didn't really have the time to spend on that, I guess.
Yeah, which is too bad, because I think the whole movie suffers because they didn't seem to realize what part of the story they wanted to focus on.
Exactly. Again, if you had cut all of the okay, so I think that we we're not quite there yet, but I mean, like, Ratcliffe's song about gold is terrible. It's not that great. I love Alan Menken. We're all aware of this at this point. But if we had cut that and spent
I like the bridge a lot, though. Remember when
the bridge
John
is pretty
Smith
good whenever John
in?
Smith starts singing. Yeah, that's really great. If John Smith had just had that song, if John Smith had just been singing a song about adventure and then runs into Pocahontas and discovers her, and then they spend more time and he's, she's interested in his armor and his helmet, and he's like saying the word and she's saying the word, and he's like John Smith and pointing to himself. And
then we could have just let it go when they were speaking to each other later.
Yeah.
And like, all right,
they figured it out. They spent some hours together. They got it. Whatever. But yeah, so yeah, no, I think that is the solution to that, is that you cut a bunch of the Ratcliffe stuff. You cut a bunch of the silliness between Ratcliffe and Wiggins, which is funny.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
And all the stuff with, like, and there's a lot of funny stuff with Percy and Miko.
Yes.
But probably more than we need.
Right.
Yeah.
I completely agree. So we could have cut some of that stuff and been able to kind of solve that problem in that way. But again, Disney magic, whatevs.
Yep, it is what it is.
So then we go into Pocahontas' second song for the film.
Yeah. That's
Colors of the
Colors
Wind.
of the Wind, right?
What do you think of it?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because historically I don't feel like this was one of those songs that I really loved growing up. But now that I think about it, I know it's one that I sang all the time. Seeing it again, though, was really lovely, because again, stylistically, there was so much going on. They really, I think they really pushed the envelope with this one.
I think so too,
because like it's most reminiscent, I think, of A Whole New World, but A Whole New World was very
muted in its colors and things. I feel.
Oh
like.
no, I wouldn't say that. Remember, there's the fireworks show and everything.
Oh sure, but I mean, it's just the
swans.
fireworks. But I mean, like they're flying at night, and this is happening like during the day. I just
That's
feel like
true. Yeah, this is very
the
vibrant.
vibrancy.
Yeah,
yes,
it
you
is.
got it.
Well, and they had all of the. There was again a lot of the Native American spirituality was shown through the song and through the animation, and it was there were things that just didn't make any sense. Like on the Magic Carpet ride, it's the two of them. They're on the ride. They're through the clouds or whatever. But this one, I remember they're like in the eye of the.
They're in the eye of the eagle. They suddenly
underwater,
are. They're deer. There's like the deer behind them. Yes.
There's this part where like the wind kind of picks them up and carries them for a little while.
And then they're both diving off of the waterfall.
She kind of turns into the wind at some point.
Yes.
They do both dive off the waterfall.
And they don't actually
together.
dive. They're like holding hands and like falling.
Jump. They both jump.
They
both
jump.
But I think that was a 3-beat.
I think so.
I'm not really good at this sort of thing, but I'm learning. Thank you, Story Walk. Drink. But when as soon as he jumped off the boat and then I saw her jump right afterwards, I was like, oh, is there going to be a 3-beat? So then I was waiting for it.
You sure did. I was very
when
proud
the
of
two
you.
of them jumped off together, I think that's what that was.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. And the song itself is just really great.
Here's the thing. I know all of the words to Colors of the Wind, and I have known them my whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, since 1995. I have never sought out this song in particular, but every time it comes on like my Disney station on Pandora or whatever, I'm always really excited, and I always am like, this song is great. This is
really
a
good.
really great song.
Yeah, it's really good. And the storytelling in that part is really lovely too.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah. I have nothing but good things to say, it turns out.
Really, really wonderful song.
Yeah.
Excellent
It
song.
was another one that as a kid I just didn't understand, I think.
Yeah.
Because there were too many references that were lost
There's
on me.
a lot going on that you like in the background and with the stylistic choices and with like what they're like. It's obvious that they put a lot of heart and a lot of love into that film that just whistles right past the ears and eyes of 8-year-olds.
Well, it was very poetic, you know.
Yes.
And it had a lot of imagery and had a lot of metaphor in it. And as a kid, it was just a little much for me. I just didn't understand.
Right.
I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you.
Even if I thought the melody was nice.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like this song. This is
Right,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
And then as an adult, I'm like, no, this is a really well done song, and this is a really well done sequence.
Yeah.
So after that, we get to where Nakoma is starting to get really worried that Pocahontas is spending all this time with John Smith. We've started to. There's been an altercation at one point. There was a gunshot fired,
right,
and hit one of the members of the Powhatan tribe. He had to go back to the medicine man and the shaman shaking his little turtle maraca, which I always really liked. And this is when we start. This is when the Powhatan tribe starts realizing we have a problem, and we've got that scene where they're in front of the fire, and the smoke transforms into the wolf that's chasing after their tribe
really
and all
cool.
of that. Yeah. It's really neat. And my note says that I would call it fear mongering, but again, they're not wrong.
Yeah,
like the white men are really. I mean, they're just.
It was a bad time in history.
It was a bad
really
time to be
was.
white.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah,
or maybe
Anyone. It was just a bad time.
It was a bad
to be
time
human.
in history.
Yeah, it was a bad time in history.
Not a great time for humanity.
We messed it up.
I prefer today where we can have like GIF wars instead of real wars.
We have those too though now, Sarah.
But, well, I mean, well, yeah, but like I prefer the GIF wars.
Yes,
is what I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough.
Kocoum, the man who Pocahontas is supposed to marry, comes up to Nakoma and is like, hey, what is up with Pocahontas? Is everything fine? You know, I'm worried about her. And he tells Nakoma, you should talk to her about it. She'll listen to you.
Yeah.
Kocoum seems really legit.
He seems like a super nice guy.
His faults are that he's too serious, which I understand.
Yeah.
Like, I've known those guys, have probably even dated those guys. But otherwise, I mean, in this society that is very much about community and about family and about, like, familial ties, like, seems like a super great catch.
He does seem nice. I do not see him in any way pursuing her heart, though.
No, not at all.
So, yeah.
I mean, occasionally he's like,
it's clear that he cares for her and that he worries for her, but he's not expressing it well.
Right, yeah. I don't know if he and Pocahontas have ever had a conversation lasting longer than
appear
5
that they
words.
have.
Probably not. And that's fine. Yeah, I'm not saying that Pocahontas should have married Kocoum. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying he seems like, I mean, like...
my dreaming at an end.
Exactly. Which is sad. And marriage does not mean your dreams are in it, unless you're in a really terrible marriage, I guess.
It's a really beautiful song for a lot of reasons.
Okay.
And that one is the song that I've always sung my whole life. Like, I don't sing Colors of the Wind very often. But that one is like one of those songs that I end up singing when I'm in the shower or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, I relate to it very well. I relate to
understand.
it a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I like variety too, girl.
I understand.
Routines are hard.
That's fine. I would happily eat, well, not now because I'm trying to be healthy, but I mean, there are times in my life where I would have happily eaten macaroni and cheese every single night, and I'd have been like, this is a safe space. I know what to expect, and everything is great. We're very different people, Elizabeth, and that's why we work together as a team.
I think you're right.
Yes.
Well, and it's just after that John Smith shows up again to see her because they've agreed to meet that night. And Nakoma is worried for her, asks her not to go, and she is very headstrong. She does what she has decided to do, and she goes off with John. But she does have, at this point, she's ready to. She's approached her father and said, if one of them wanted to talk and not have a war, you would listen, right?
And he said, of course I would.
And he said, of course I would. Yeah. So she's ready to say, okay, let's approach the tribe, and I'll approach your people, and we'll try to make peace for our two peoples. So there's so much to respect about her. And she asks him to, and that's when we see him kind of engage in her spirituality.
Yes.
I really like the scene where he sees Grandmother Willow's face.
Yeah.
And she says, did you see something? He's like, no.
Of course
I didn't see anything.
I really enjoyed that scene. Yeah, no, that particular moment, because that's everybody's natural inclination, right? Anytime you see something that you don't understand or that could be perceived as weird or supernatural or make you seem, odd, your automatic first instinct is to be like, no, I didn't see anything. It's totally fine. There was nothing there. There was nothing there. And I feel like that we can do that with a lot of things in our lives, particularly more spiritual things where it's like, well, I mean, it was a fluke. It was this or it was that. But she shows John Smith that, no, this is a real thing. This is a real tangible thing for me and for my people, and I want to share this thing with you. Yes. And that was really lovely.
It was really, I agree. It was very well done. Yeah, it was very moving. And I liked his interaction with Grandmother Willow. He was very sweet and respectful to her.
Ooh, he's handsome.
She liked him. Oh, I like her. Yeah. The whole thing was just very cute.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Very cute.
And he agreed to take the risk of going into the village to meet with her father. But then they kiss. It's their first kiss.
Yes,
it's romantic and lovely, and they're seen.
It's really great. It lasts a long time.
It does last a long time, and not in just like a weird way, but it's a very intimate
they look
embrace.
Like they are enjoying it.
Yeah. So Thomas sees them,
and so does
Kocoum. He is
Kocoum.
Concerned, and so does Kocoum. And then Kocoum is not as nice a man as we wish that he was.
Loses his cool.
He does lose his cool. He's
runs
clearly
out.
Not only worried for her, but it's mostly prompted, I think, by envy. I think that's how it plays.
Yeah, and it's not his best moment.
No,
and we can't even say that he died a hero or anything, because really he died attacking John Smith, and like it's hard, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Coco, you seemed super cool up to this point,
and it's interesting because she said he was so serious, but he was ruled by his emotions, and we saw maybe that's why he had such a stern.
That's a really
and
good
tough
point.
Exterior, because he felt things very deeply, clearly. So that was an interesting scene too.
But Pocahontas immediately is concerned about. I mean, like, he dies, and the first words out of her mouth are, "You killed him. You killed him."
Yeah.
And so we see that it's not just whereas I think maybe some other Disney princess would have been like, oh, well, that problem's taken care of. Now I can be with the guy I want to be with. Like, no big deal. Maybe, but Pocahontas is like genuinely concerned about this and realizes that she needs to go back to her people and deal with this fallout. And you and I had not seen this movie in so long that we both were like, he doesn't die. Like, he goes back, like they fix him up, right? Like, everything's fine,
that's what
right?
I was thinking, but no.
But then we get back to Powhatan and he's like, Kocoum is dead, and we're like,
and he said, because of your actions to Pocahontas. Yeah, that was tough.
Hard to hear that from Dad.
It is. Yeah.
And to Pocahontas' credit, she does not immediately like run off and weep and fling herself onto a bed or a bench or wherever. She's sitting with Nakoma and is like, I brought this upon us. I made a mistake. I chose the wrong path, and is, feeling regret for the things that she's done. And she's 18 and is absolutely the most grown up of any princess we have seen so far.
Definitely.
And it's brilliant and wonderful and lovely to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I like Nakoma too.
Oh, yeah.
Nakoma is a great friend because that's that same moment where she says, and because of what I've done, I'll never see John Smith again. Mm-hmm. And Nakoma takes her to see him like immediately.
Yes, where he's in the prisoner's tent.
Yeah, yeah. Awaiting execution in the morning, which is pretty hardcore.
Yeah, pretty extreme. And this is where I did not know this, but you knew about this. Yeah. There's a song that's supposed to be here.
Yes.
If I Never Knew You.
And it's amazing. It's a great, great song. Okay. I learned this song because it was in a Disney songbook that my grandmother had over her organ. I used to play the organ at her house when I would visit in the summers.
I did not know this about you. Well, yeah, I mean,
those little, like the ones where it's got just like A, B, C's and 1, 2, 3s, whatever, and you just move your fingers. Yeah. So that's how everybody plays piano. You just move your fingers, but you know what I mean? Anyway.
You don't say.
All that to say, but she had that was one that I played on the organ, and it was my very favorite one. It was just gorgeous. And so I looked into it to see why it wasn't there anymore. And that's when I realized that it had been because it is at the end as a pop ballad that is not good.
The pop ballad is not good.
It's really not
decidedly
good.
not good.
But the song itself in its place in the movie and with the animation that they cut is beautiful.
It's amazing.
Very romantic. Like
super
capital
good.
R romantic.
It's ridiculous. It's and I mean so Liz told me about this, and I immediately thought, oh, I bet that on YouTube we can find the animatic of it. And an animatic is whenever they've done some of the animation for a scene. They've already done like the voice acting and the singing and the background music and everything, but they haven't completed, maybe the inking or the coloring of the scene itself. And so it's basically just sketches. It looks like moving. It's like cartoon that hasn't been finished. And so they're really neat. And I personally really enjoy animatics. I like seeing how all the scenes come together. So we looked it up on YouTube. And oh my gosh, it was so gorgeous and beautiful and wonderful. And I was so sad that it got cut. And Liz, you said, why would they cut this? And I said, because the kids got bored. And I bet that's the reason why.
Which is really too bad.
It's the same reason why in The Wizard of Oz, we almost did not have Somewhere Over the Rainbow because kids started like dumping their popcorn out everywhere because they couldn't even, pay attention. And the same reason why in The Little Mermaid, we almost didn't have Part of Your World.
Yeah.
And I wonder if because we had already had so many great songs to this point that nobody was really wanting to fight for it, or if we were running out of time. Like,
I wonder
who knows?
What the story is.
It would be interesting to know.
I would really like to watch the movie again, stop it, watch that scene, and then continue again.
That's really interesting.
Because I think that we lost something.
I think so too.
If since we're to the end, we'll cut to, here when she goes, she saves his life from the execution.
Yes.
She says that, everyone has come here with anger and hatred in their hearts, but this is how she chooses. She chooses love, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
And her father says, we all came here and met with anger, but she has courage and she has love and she
wisdom
has wisdom beyond her years.
Yeah.
It's really quite beautiful.
It's really lovely.
So they pack. And John Smith has gotten. Oh, that's right. And then Ratcliffe,
who we haven't mentioned again since earlier because guys, he's so inconsequential to this film. Like it's a joke.
But he still wants war because why?
He wants to kill all the Indians.
Decided
for the gold.
The Indians are hiding the gold for no reason, just because
Native Americans.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they say
Indians.
They say Indians. So
but the Powhatan tribe.
Anyway, yes, that they were hoarding all the gold for themselves. So he tries to shoot Powhatan and.
John Smith leaps in front of the bullet, in front of the musket ball.
Yeah, again, the action
gets
hero
shot.
Or whatever.
We see people get shot 3 times in this film, not an ounce of blood because obviously it's a Disney movie. But I mean, like whenever Kocoum gets shot and he's like falling into it pulled me out personally because I'm looking and I'm like, there's not a mark on you, dude. And again, I know why it's rated G, it's for children,
right?
Whatever.
Even
but anyway,
so, yeah. Well, anyhow, so in order for John Smith to get the medical attention that he needs, of course, they've got to ship him back over to London. So he's getting back on the ship, and he asks Pocahontas to come with him.
Yeah.
Which we know historically, eventually she does go to London, but it
not
did
with
take
John
some
Smith.
time. And that part I didn't remember that she didn't go with John Smith. I just knew that
we had
she
to have
go
Lily
to London.
school us because
Lily totally
of
was
course she's like learning all of this.
She marries John Rolfe, and then she goes to London, and then she dies on the return journey when she is struck ill at 22.
And we're just like,
goodness, Lily.
What?
Way to go, school systems.
Yeah, thanks. You'll forget that in 20 years.
Exactly. That's what happens. Yeah. But anyhow, so, but when we have that scene and he invites her to come back with him.
Yes.
And she declines. She says that she is needed here.
Which was absolutely amazing.
It was. And I think it could only have been more amazing if we had scene had not been cut, because then that was their goodbye. Exactly right. They had the chance to say goodbye, and she had closure. Closure is really important to the human life. You know what I mean? It's just important. It's important to the heart in particular.
Right.
So, and they both had this this thing that they said to each other that's like, I'll always be with you, which also, echoes what Powhatan had said about her mother always being with them. Mm-hmm. So this idea that the spirit is something other and transcends their mortal bodies.
Right.
So I think that could have been just so much more touching and so much more cathartic if we had known that they had their chance to say goodbye.
And honestly, I bet that if that song had stayed in, that I would have enjoyed this movie more as a child and would have understood. Like, I think that would have just added more to it. Because
as a kid, you're like, why don't you go with him?
Why?
That's the
you're
man that you love.
Yeah. Every other Disney princess movie has told me that you go with the man that you love. But they loved one another, but she knew that her people needed her and that she needed to stay. And again, in history, she goes on back to, and apparently there's a second Pocahontas movie,
which
nobody
she goes
recommends.
Basically as an ambassador. Yeah, though, as I understood it. Yeah,
yeah, but history and reality are no defense for fiction. So here we are in this story where, and I had forgotten this too, honestly. Like I knew in history that she did not go, but I did not remember how this movie ended. And so whenever she is taking his hand and like holding it up to her face and there are tears, and like she looks back at her father and he says, "You must choose your own path." Yes. She turns back to John Smith. There are tears in her eyes and she says, "I am needed here." And I just thought, this is the best Disney princess movie there has ever been.
And remember, Powhatan had said to her earlier that our people look to your mother for wisdom and for strength, and one day they will look to you.
Yeah. And so he's taken onto the boat, and he leaves, and she's racing after the boat. The music is swelling.
Oh my God, it's
beautiful. The colors are beautiful and gorgeous again.
Chills.
It's stunning. Yeah. It's absolutely stunning.
Absolute chills.
And gets back to the top of that waterfall, and then again we get that wind and the leaves, and they go and they push the breeze forward. Because Thomas, even one of the sailors says, "Do you think he's going to be okay?" And Thomas says, "If we get a good enough wind to get us to London in time."
Right. Yeah.
And Pocahontas sends that forward to send him on.
Right.
And the movie ends, and it is so much better than I remembered it being.
Yeah, I have goosebumps right now.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to say about this movie before we grade Pocahontas and she gets like all of the points?
Well, I do want to say that this is my type of romantic movie. I like those ones where they don't get together in the end.
That's right. You really do. And I generally do not.
I mean, and not always, of course. Well, I mean, everybody loves a happy ending. But when it comes to just like what stirs my heart, what I feel like is just like that capital R romantic is, them not getting together in the end.
And I completely agree with you. I mean, I feel like, as a grown-up watching this, as an adult woman watching this, like it strikes. I mean, and I've seen every Disney movie ever. I've seen every Disney princess film, and there's always the happy ending and the romance. This means so much more to me. Like to have that thing that you want and to have to let that go for something bigger than yourself is amazing. Because
and something bigger than your feelings.
Yeah, because people can be really selfish and people can let their feelings completely. I mean, we saw Coco let his feelings completely overwhelm him, and it led to his downfall, his literal, actual physical downfall. But to have something in your life that you care for so much, but that there is more. There is more than this thing. There's more than this person. And it's so striking and lovely and wonderful and beautiful. Yeah. And you guys, if you have not seen this movie in a long time, watch it again. Tammy, I'm sorry that I was unaware.
And we will put a link in the show notes to the deleted scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely do yourself a favor and watch that.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's really so quite beautiful.
Okay, well, let us get to the completely scientific, completely not just based on our feelings and opinions, grading system.
Of course.
So we will be grading Pocahontas in 6 different categories: her autonomy, her attitude, her animal companions, her attire, her aria, and how good she is in the zombie apocalypse. Grading on a scale of 1 to 5 in each category. Highest possible score is 30. And Pocahontas' autonomy.
5.
5, right?
5.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She knew what she was about.
Yep.
She made her own choices. She affected the story and
She
was not just
absolutely
waiting
did.
for somebody else to come tell her, hey, your fairy godmother's chilling out in the garden.
Definitely.
Can you go like weep out there and have something happen? I don't mean to keep like
No, it's okay.
throwing shade on Cinderella.
It's
I'm
all
so
right.
sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Wasn't just waiting around for the sea witch. There we go. We're good.
Yeah.
Her attitude. She's really smart and really kind and really gentle and really brave and really 5.
5.
5?
Absolute 5.
This is ridiculous. Her animal companions. Okay, so we almost didn't talk about Miko and Flit at all. We mentioned
It's true.
Percy.
Yeah, well, they're very silly.
Yeah, they're very silly. They're very funny. When
Yeah.
I was a little girl, I very desperately wanted a pet raccoon because of this film.
I always liked Miko better than Flit.
Flit does
Flit's
basically
just cranky
nothing.
for no reason.
Yeah,
I don't
Flit
like
is
that. I'm like,
cranky
what's the
and-
point of having you around if you're not cheerful
Flit
and
is
sweet?
basically Sebastian just trying to like get in the way and stop all the action from happening
For no reason.
for no reason. Yeah, just because he needs to, I guess.
I like the part where he gets stuck in the little biscuit.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, really funny part for
Heart
whenever
attack.
John Smith
Yeah.
just picks up the heart attack and he just lays
Yeah.
right at it. Yeah. Miko made me laugh. I think almost every time he was on screen.
Miko's really pretty cute, actually.
Miko's
Yeah.
pretty cute, and also Miko is the one who, whenever Pocahontas was so certain that she had chosen the wrong path with John Smith and she was
Yes.
lost, Miko is the one who remembered.
She says, "I'm lost."
We have a tool that John Smith
Yeah.
gave us that shows you where to go when you're lost, and goes and grabs the compass for
And
her,
it's
which
that
is the
spinning arrow from her dream.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I love the spirituality of
Yes.
the movie. I really do.
It's really, really great. So 5.
Oh, really? 5? Just because he was
maybe like
funny
a
and he gave her
4.
a compass? I feel like the
Let's
movie.
let's look at some of our other scores. The only
Okay.
let's see, Ariel. Okay, so Flounder and Sebastian from The Little Mermaid got a
Flounder
5.
and Sebastian and the seagull
Oh, and Scuttle.
and Scuttle.
Yeah, because
they're fantastic.
They were really great.
So they got a 5. Is that what it says?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't surprise
the
me.
lowest
They're way
score
better.
is Snow White's Forest Critters, who got a 2.
Okay. Well then, yeah. Okay.
What do you feel comfortable with?
I really only feel comfortable with that a 3 because the compass was obviously great.
Yes.
That was a great moment, but everything else was just filler
They're mostly
fluff.
for jokes, and they weren't
Yeah.
really helping to push the story forward.
Definitely,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll let that. Yeah, I'll let that go. That's totally fine.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Next is her attire. Here's the thing: she only has the one outfit in the
She
entire
only
movie,
has the one outfit, which is kind of neat, actually.
but she's gorgeous.
She's so beautifully animated,
Which I think
She's-
is part of it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, she's beautifully animated. That necklace is a really lovely touch. This
really
idea
is.
of her mother, her identity, her duty,
and the contrast of the blue against the peach tones,
yes.
the lighter browns, and
Uh-huh.
even against her skin is absolutely
Right,
wonderful and
right.
lovely. The 2 highest scorers on attire right now are Cinderella and Belle.
of course. Yeah.
Do you
What are
think
comfortable
that?
with?
I mean, do you think Pocahontas is prettier than Cinderella or Belle?
but it's not. That's not attire.
I guess it's not.
Yeah,
Okay.
attire is.
Because it's just. Let's see.
It's a little. I'm afraid it's going to be a low score, Sarah, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. The lowest score in attire right now is Princess Aurora, 2.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't really. I mean, she only had 2 outfits, and we didn't really like her dress.
Yeah, it's true. Okay.
I mean, and Aurora had multiple outfits. Pocahontas only had the one, but I do really like that necklace.
The necklace is cool. Also, the little arm tattoo is a really nice.
I really like her
touch.
arm tattoo. Is
Her
that
arm
attire?
tattoo is cool. Well, kind of.
What are you comfortable with?
I'm comfortable with probably another 2.5, maybe a
Okay.
3. I could.
I'll go with
possibly
a
be
3.
Nudged up to a 3. You think
That
so?
necklace is really great.
Because the necklace is so great.
And she just looks so good. I mean, no matter what she's doing in her outfit, she looks great, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like she's able to appear regal and queenly,
Yep.
and also is able to like sneak
But she
through
could
the
actually
woods,
move through it
around
really
and
well.
look for
Okay.
John
All
Smith.
right, 3.
Yeah,
Yep.
3.
You
Great.
got it.
Excellent.
You talked me into it.
Thanks. Next, Aria. Her songs. I love her
5.
songs. 5.
Absolutely.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Is she the only princess to have gotten a 5 on her arias? Because I feel like I've been disappointed with
She
Princess.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
she's the
really do
only
feel like
one.
I've been disappointed with their songs all the way through until now.
Yeah. Man, nostalgia, I'll tell you what, is a weird
liar.
filter.
Just nostalgia is a liar.
And a weird filter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it absolutely is. You can just remember a thing as a certain way for years and years and years,
Yeah.
and then go back to it and you're like, I've been completely wrong my entire life.
Yeah.
What have I been doing?
Interesting.
And our final category, how well would Pocahontas do in the zombie apocalypse?
She would rule the apocalypse, right? She'd be like queen of the zombie apocalypse.
Okay, here's the thing. We don't see her fighting. We do see her. I mean, she lives with this tribe of fighters.
Of
she knows how
warriors.
to survive,
Definitely.
outside of civilization.
Yes, she's very sneaky isn't the right word, but she
Stealthy.
Stealthy. That's
She's very, very
exactly the
stealthy.
right word.
Yes.
She's very stealthy.
Great with languages.
Definitely. It's great with languages. That's true. That's true.
And as your husband pointed out, the hardest part in Oregon Trail was always fording the rivers, and Pocahontas has that down pat.
You know what? I really do think zombies can't swim, right?
No, I think that they go to the bottom of the body of water, and then they bloat and float to the top, and then you're able to like stab them, and all the gases expel, and then they sink back down to the bottom again. That's how zombies work.
You know a lot about zombies.
I own really the zombie survival guide.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you think? 4?
I think a 4 is pretty good. Other 4s are... Why does Jasmine have a 4 for zombie apocalypse?
Well, she did like leap over a building with the little thing. She's a quick
steady. Yeah. Okay, I remember.
She has
now.
a tiger for a pet.
Okay, fine.
That's pretty cool.
Belle and Jasmine both have 4s for zombie apocalypse. So
plus a magic carpet. I mean,
yeah, the magic carpet helps a lot. So, do you think that Pocahontas would do as well as Belle and Jasmine, or better than?
Better than.
I think so. So
that means it has to be a 5
or 4.5. Here's the thing: if zombie apocalypse breaks out today, because we have to like. I mean, no, you know what? Are you comfortable with a 5?
You know, I have to say 4.5
okay.
because I have not seen her wield a weapon.
That's completely fair. All right, so let's do some math here really quick. I think that it's going to be basically a landslide.
You think so? Even with her lower score with the tire?
I do think so.
I didn't give her very high for her animals either.
Oh, well, that is quite surprising. Okay, so not a complete and total landslide. Cinderella is still queen of the Disney princesses right now.
What?
Because Pocahontas is at a 25.5.
25.5.
Yes,
okay.
And Cinderella is at a 26.
Wow, I really must have pushed really hard for Cinderella.
You really did, and I was quite lenient.
You must have been.
Yes.
This very scientific method of ours
absolutely
is fascinating.
Yes,
okay.
It really is.
But you know, I mean, Cinderella is a classic princess. I would be all right with her.
That's fine.
You know?
I'm not sure how she got a 3.5 in Zombie Apocalypse either. Oh wait, fairy godmother. We just assumed that she just
fairy
got
godmother.
the fairy godmother.
Yeah. Plus, she like everybody is always on her side, and like everybody sacrificed themselves through the movie, like all of her little animal friends and stuff. You know,
yeah, she can just get all the rats, the plague rats that are living during zombie apocalypse time. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I won't go back anymore. Anyway, Pocahontas, shockingly, I mean, like, what would you before this? What would you have guessed she would have gotten? Like just ballpark.
You know, I think that had anybody actually asked me, as soon as I would have thought about it, I would have realized that she was going to be a front runner because the songs are so good, because her autonomy is so high.
Yeah.
So
I had forgotten all about like her attitude and her autonomy. I really, really genuinely had. It has been so long since I watched this film.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you much about her attitude, I don't think. But I think that I would have suspected that she was going to be certainly above some of our other ladies that we'd had. So
if someone had asked me, I honestly would have been, no, she's going to be like at the bottom. Like we've never even because we had never even considered her.
We just didn't think about her.
Didn't think about her at all.
Yeah.
And for a while, like we had mentioned at the start of the podcast, we were not planning on including her in our list.
That's true. Yeah.
But then, you know, we had so many people asking, you know, well, who is actually on your list? What are you actually including?
Right.
Is Nala on the list? No, because she's not a human and Disney is speciest. And so, yeah, so 25.5, not bad, Pocahontas.
Not
you
at
are
all.
currently
Really well
in
done.
second place, immediately behind Cinderella and above Ariel. So, not terrible.
Yep, that's exactly where I would have put her, I think.
Yeah?
And I don't even know if I would have put her behind Cinderella. I probably would have. But I definitely would have put her above Ariel. So she landed
here's the
right
thing.
where I thought.
Next week, I think, is going to be very tricky because next week we are doing Mulan, who is not a princess.
We did not think she
royalty.
was going to be on the list
did not
at all.
No, we did not think that Mulan was going to be here in any way, shape, or form because she's not a princess, not royalty,
No.
doesn't marry into royalty.
Yeah.
Even her boyfriend at the end of the film is not royalty. He's just a general.
Yeah. It's
However,
completely shocking.
Disney includes her in the Disney Princess line. So we are going to be
we're
watching.
going to also.
We're going to watch Mulan. We will be grading her next week. I guarantee she gets a 5 in Zombie Apocalypse.
Absolutely, she does.
Yep.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, so we're gonna yes, we'll see how that goes.
We will see.
We'll see how that goes next week. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this
always so
very,
much fun.
very special episode of Disney Princess Deathmatch. If you want to let us know what are your personal scores, what do you think about Pocahontas? Tammy, tell me how you really feel. Then you can get in touch with us on Twitter using the hashtag DPDM for Disney Princess Deathmatch. I know Deathmatch is one word, but
Too late. We
already did it. There's nothing you can do about it now, and I'm so sorry. You can reach me on Twitter at Elsa Grab the Salt.
I'm at Lisbeth Ray 555.
If you would like to hear some more shows that we do, you can head on over to commonroomradio.com and find the complete collection of every show we've ever done.
Yeah.
If you enjoy what we do, if you like Disney Princess Deathmatch, if you would like more stuff like this, if you really want us to do like Disney Villain Deathmatch,
Disney Villain Deathmatch.
Oh, yeah.
I never even thought of that. That's a great idea.
It is a great idea. So if you also think that's a great idea, then you can help us to do more shows and do more stuff like this by heading on over to patreon.com/commonroomradio. And you can support us monetarily that way. It's a crowdfunding site, and you can kick us $1 a month or whatever you can afford. And everything that you send, any way that you can support helps us to be able to do more shows like this.
And we have a lot of ideas, folks.
We have so many ideas. Please help us to achieve our weird dreams. You're already doing so well helping us to achieve our weird podcasting dreams. And we're so grateful. Thank you all so much. Thank you for all the support. Another way that you can support us, if you just can't, if you can't support us monetarily, then you can head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating or a review.
That's right. Yeah, please do that.
Yeah, I don't know if we've mentioned that yet, actually.
No, and it helps people to find us.
It does. So, it helps people find us on iTunes. It helps us to, kind of pop up in those feeds and let more people know about the show. And so even if you aren't able to maybe to contribute monetarily, somebody can see the show who maybe they can.
Yeah.
So
it's
that's
a great way to help. It really is.
And of course, sharing us on Twitter, retweeting whenever the show shows up, sharing us on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/commonroomcast and share us there, like us there, do all the stuff that you do over on Facebook. We're never on Facebook. We're basically only on Twitter if you want to get in touch with us personally. And I think that's basically it. Did we cover all the bases?
I think we're covered, Sarah.
That sounds great, Liz. Everything about this was excellent except for the terrible wine that I picked out.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I love you and I love wine, and this wine is fine. It's totally fine, Sarah.
Thanks.
I'm perfectly pleased to drink it.
Excellent. I'm probably going to go make myself a margarita. Because I get to spend the night with you tonight.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Sarah Cade.
I'm Liz Stevens.
We'll see you next week. That was a really good episode.
I feel like it was a really good episode.